What if I told you the fastest way to get everything you've ever wanted is to stop chasing anyone, not love, not approval, not attention, just focus on you and watch the world turn its head, not because you begged for it, but because you became it. You are the prize, but somewhere along the way you forgot. Somewhere in the midst of all the noise, the opinions, the distractions, you lost sight of one fundamental truth. You are worthy. You were never meant to chase approval, to shrink to fit someone else's version of you, to mold yourself into what others expected. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, somewhere in the mess of relationships and societal expectations, you were told that your value is measured by the way others see you. But here's the reality: you were always meant to choose yourself. For most of us, we've spent our lives trying to fit into spaces that weren't meant for us, desperately seeking validation, constantly asking, "Am I enough?" We've looked to others to answer that question, from our parents and teachers to our friends, colleagues, and even strangers. And what did we find? A never-ending cycle of doubt, uncertainty, and the creeping fear that we'd never truly measure up. This cycle is exhausting. It's a hamster wheel of seeking, never getting what you really need. The answer doesn't lie in their eyes. The answer is already inside of you. You were never supposed to get your worth from anyone else, because you've been carrying it all along. The truth is, the moment you stop seeking validation and start choosing yourself, everything changes. It's not about arrogance or selfishness. It's about self-respect and self-acknowledgement. It's about recognizing that your existence, your uniqueness, your ability to make a difference in this world is not dependent on how well you fit into someone else's expectations. You are a complete package, as you are. It's when you finally stand in the power of your own worth that the world starts to shift around you, not because you've demanded it to, but because the energy you emit is unmistakable. When you stop shrinking, when you stop questioning your value, people begin to recognize the force that you truly are. When you focus on yourself, you step into the space where your authenticity becomes magnetic. People are drawn to authenticity because it's rare in a world that constantly pushes us to conform. There's power in being fully yourself. Your individuality, your quirks, your flaws, they make you unique. And it's only when you embrace that uniqueness that the world begins to reflect it back to you in ways you never imagined. It's as if the universe stops trying to test you and starts rewarding you for your courage to be real. The people who once ignored you, dismissed you, or doubted you begin to notice, not because you begged for attention, but because you're no longer afraid to stand tall in your own truth. The journey to remembering that you are the prize is not an easy one. It requires courage, a willingness to let go of the need for external validation, and a commitment to your own personal growth. For years, you may have been programmed to think that you had to prove your worth to someone else, that the way you showed up in the world had to be validated by others. But the truth is, you will never feel truly at peace until you validate yourself. And that doesn't mean you stop caring about others or stop forming meaningful relationships. It means you stop relying on others to fill the empty space inside you. It means you begin to fill that space yourself with self-compassion, self-love, and the recognition that you are already whole. It's so easy to get caught up in the chase. We live in a society that prizes success, approval, and constant achievement. We're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us we need to be better, do more, and impress others. But what if you stopped chasing? What if you took all that energy, all that effort, and instead of pouring it into external validation, you poured it into yourself, into your growth, into your healing, into your goals? What if you made your own success the focus, your own well-being the priority? What if the validation you needed came not from others, but from the simple fact that you woke up today, and you are choosing to be the best version of yourself, regardless of the opinions of others? The beauty of choosing yourself is that you begin to shed the weight of other people's expectations. And when you do this, the relationships you have start to change. not because you've become someone else, but because you've become more of who you truly are. People who once wanted you to fit into their boxes start to fall away, but in their place, you'll find people who resonate with the true you, the unapologetically authentic version of yourself. These are the people who see your worth, not because they are measuring you against their standards, but because they understand the value of someone who knows their own worth. And it's these people who will become your allies, your support system, the ones who will walk with you as you rise. Choosing yourself isn't a selfish act. It's a radical act of self-love. It's a declaration that you will no longer diminish yourself to meet the expectations of others. It's a statement that your worth is non-negotiable. When you choose yourself, you become the person you were always meant to be, unapologetically and without hesitation. And it's in this power that the world begins to take notice. Not because you're asking for attention, but because you've finally recognized that you don't need to ask for anything. You simply need to be. And in being your most authentic self, you become a magnet for all the things you've always desired: respect, love, success, and most importantly, your own peace. Energy speaks louder than words. We often hear people say, actions speak louder than words. But here's the reality, ***, energy speaks even louder than actions, ***. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the presence of someone, even before they said a word? It wasn't their clothes, their smile, or the way they carried themselves that grabbed your attention. It was the energy they emitted, the confidence, the calm, the alignment they radiated. It's something intangible, something you feel before you even begin to comprehend what's happening. And it's this energy that holds the true power to shift everything in your life. When you're focused on yourself, when you center your energy on personal growth, healing, and becoming the best version of who you truly are, your presence becomes magnetic. It's not about trying to be someone you're not, or putting on a facade to get attention. The people around you can feel when you're authentic, when you're comfortable in your own skin. This is the kind of energy that leaves a mark. People gravitate toward you not because you're louder or more boisterous, but because there's a quiet strength in your being. A clarity in your eyes, a calm in your presence, and a certainty in your actions that becomes undeniable. You don't have to chase anyone or anything when you're aligned with your true self. The world around you will start to reflect the energy you've cultivated within. And here's the key ***, the world doesn't just reflect your energy, it responds to it ***. When you show up fully, unapologetically yourself, not seeking validation but radiating self-worth, it's impossible for others not to notice. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or entitled. It simply means you stop hiding. You no longer feel the need to be someone else to gain approval. People feel that. They feel the authenticity, and it draws them in. Not because you're begging for attention, but because you're radiating something real. The energy you emit is directly connected to the way you view yourself. If you don't believe in your own worth, that energy will leak out into every interaction you have. You will find yourself shrinking, trying to prove yourself, hoping for validation. But when you choose to believe in your value, when you understand that you are enough as you are, everything shifts. Your posture changes, your tone shifts, the way you move through the world transforms. The people around you feel this energy, and it draws them in like a magnet. They see that you are solid, you are unwavering. And this kind of self-assuredness is something that can't be ignored. But this isn't just about being seen. It's about showing up with purpose. It's about living each day with intention, knowing that the energy you put out into the world will come back to you tenfold. When you stop chasing validation, when you stop putting energy into seeking external approval, you begin to cultivate a space of inner peace and power. This is when the world starts to respond differently. Doors that once seemed closed begin to open. Opportunities that felt out of reach suddenly feel attainable, not because you're doing more, but because your energy is aligned with your true purpose. You're no longer giving your power away to the people around you. You're holding it, and in doing so, You allow the world to see you for the strength you carry within. And this power doesn't just apply to personal relationships. It extends into every aspect of your life. Whether it's your career, your health, or your passions, the energy you put out affects the outcomes you experience. When you are clear on who you are and what you stand for, the energy you give off attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances. Think about it. How often have you noticed that when you're in a good mood, when you're feeling confident and centered, everything around you seems to fall into place? This is not coincidence. It's the universe responding to the energy you're sending out into the world. Your vibration attracts the same frequency, and when you're vibrating at a higher level, you start to manifest your desires with ease. Now, this doesn't mean that everything will always go smoothly. Life will still throw challenges your way. But when you are aligned with your own energy, you begin to approach these challenges with a different mindset. You no longer feel defeated by setbacks because you understand that these are just part of the process. Your energy is unshakable. It's grounded in self-belief and resilience, and as a result, you move through life with a strength that can't be easily diminished. You no longer rely on external circumstances to determine your worth. Your worth is rooted in who you are, in your own energy, in your own understanding of your value. What people don't often realize is that *** energy is contagious ***. If you've ever been around someone who exudes negativity, someone who constantly complains or doubts, you know how draining that energy can be. It pulls you down, it shifts your own energy, and before you know it, you're carrying that negativity too. But the opposite is also true. When you are focused on your own growth, when you are centered in your own energy, you uplift everyone around you. Your positivity, your self-assuredness, your alignment becomes a beacon. It lights the way for others, and this is how you create real influence, not by forcing your ideas onto others, but by simply being the best version of yourself. People will be drawn to that energy. They will want to be near it, and in turn, your life will begin to reflect the very energy you've created within yourself. You don't have to seek validation from others. You don't have to chase after approval. The moment you shift your focus inward, the moment you cultivate that strong, powerful, and magnetic energy, the world will take notice. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're no longer trying to hide. Your energy will do the work for you, and once that happens, you'll realize that the only thing you ever needed to do was believe in your own worth and stand firm in your own truth. When you do that, everything else falls into place. Validation is a drug, and you need to detox. It's something we all crave, isn't it? The approval, the recognition, the affirmation that we're doing it right. We look for it in the eyes of others, in their words, in their actions. We live for the moments when someone tells us, "You're enough," or "You're doing a great job." But here's the problem. Validation from others is fleeting. It's like a quick hit, a temporary high that fades away just as quickly as it arrived. And once it's gone, we're left searching for the next fix, always hungry, always wanting more. But here's the harsh truth. When you base your self-worth on someone else's opinion, you're giving away your power. You're allowing someone else to dictate how you feel about yourself. The craving for external validation begins at a young age. We're taught that approval equals success. From the time we start school, we're praised for good grades, for winning the game, for being the most popular. Our self-worth becomes entangled with these external markers. As we grow older, we carry this mindset with us. We search for likes on social media, for compliments from friends, for approval from bosses and colleagues. And with every form of validation we receive, we feel a little bit better about ourselves, until, of course, the next moment of doubt comes and we need more. It's an endless cycle. We begin to rely on it to feel secure, to feel seen, to feel valuable. But the problem is, this constant need for external validation doesn't fill the hole within us. It only deepens it. What happens when we detox from this need for validation, when we stop seeking approval and start approving of ourselves? We become free, free from the opinions of others, free from the constant comparison, free from the weight of trying to measure up. The moment we stop searching for validation, we start recognizing that our worth doesn't come from someone else's eyes, it comes from within us. We stop waiting for someone to tell us we're good enough. We begin to realize that we are good enough, right now, just as we are. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, practice, and a deep commitment to breaking free from the external validation trap. But when you begin to let go of that need for external approval, something remarkable happens. You start to feel whole in your own skin, without needing anyone to tell you that you are. It's important to note that this doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It doesn't mean you stop wanting healthy, loving relationships. It doesn't mean you stop valuing feedback or constructive criticism. But it does mean that you stop seeking validation as a way to measure your worth. You no longer rely on the opinion of others to determine who you are. You develop a sense of self that is grounded in your own understanding of your value, not in what others think of you. This is where true freedom lies. When you no longer need validation to feel validated, you start to live with a sense of purpose and power that cannot be taken away. When you detox from the need for validation, you also become less reactive to the opinions and judgments of others. You stop getting upset when someone disagrees with you or doesn't appreciate your efforts. Their opinions no longer have the same weight. You're no longer giving away your emotional energy to people who aren't aligned with your values. Instead, you can use that energy to invest in yourself, to grow, to create, to heal. You realize that not everyone needs to agree with you, and that's okay. Your worth isn't contingent on the approval of others. It's rooted in who you are at your core. The more you learn to stand firm in your own self-approval, the less you'll be swayed by the opinions of those around you. There's power in recognizing that you are enough, regardless of what others think. The moment you detox from validation, you stop giving other people the power to dictate how you feel. You stop waiting for someone else to approve of you, and you begin to approve of yourself. And here's the thing, the more you approve of yourself, the more you give others permission to do the same. When you stop seeking validation, you become a living example of what it means to love and accept yourself. People notice. They may not say it, but they begin to respect you, to admire you, to be inspired by the way you show up in the world. This is where true strength comes from, the internal strength that comes when you stop needing anyone else's validation to feel worthy. It's an inner foundation that no one can shake. When you stop outsourcing your self-worth to others, you begin to build a life based on your values, your desires, and your vision. You take ownership of your life, of your actions, of your choices. You become the authority on who you are and what you stand for. This is when you become unstoppable. Because when you're no longer dependent on external validation, no one can hold you back. You move with clarity, purpose, and conviction, and the world starts to respond accordingly. Letting go of the need for validation doesn't mean you stop growing, learning, or evolving. It doesn't mean you stop striving for excellence or improvement. But it does mean you stop relying on others to tell you that you're good enough. You begin to trust yourself, your instincts, and your judgment. You begin to measure your success by your own standards, not by someone else's. This is where true peace resides, within yourself, independent of the opinions or approval of others. And when you operate from this place of self-trust, you open yourself up to a life of limitless possibilities, a life where your worth is never in question, because you know that you are always enough. Stillness is strength, not weakness. In a world that constantly demands more, faster, and louder, we are taught to equate busyness with productivity and noise with importance. The louder you are, the more people notice you, or so the narrative goes. But what if the opposite is true? What if the strongest thing you can do is simply to remain still? Stillness does not mean passivity or inaction. It means presence. It means a deep-rooted ability to remain anchored in who you are, no matter how chaotic or loud the world around you becomes. This is not the weakness of avoidance. This is the power of choosing not to be swept away by every current. When we are constantly moving, constantly reacting, constantly striving for more, we lose sight of what really matters. We lose the ability to center ourselves. Stillness allows us to pause, to reflect, and to gather our thoughts. It gives us the space to reconnect with our true selves, to filter out the noise, and to refocus on our inner guidance. The strength in stillness comes from the courage to slow down, to resist the urge to chase after every distraction, and to stand firm in the knowledge that you don't have to keep moving to prove your worth. The world may demand your attention, but your peace, your ability to remain calm and present, is an act of rebellion against the madness of it all. One of the most difficult things we face in today's world is the pressure to be always on. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle, that praises those who are constantly on the go, who never seem to rest. We are told that the ones who rise to the top are the ones who are always busy, always working, always doing. But what if we've got it all wrong? What if the most successful people are the ones who have learned the art of stillness? What if true strength lies in the ability to step back, assess the situation, and make decisions from a place of clarity, not chaos? In stillness, you regain control over your life. You are no longer a victim of the external demands placed on you. You are the one who dictates the pace. Stillness also provides us with the clarity we so often lack. How many times have you found yourself caught up in a flurry of activity, only to realize later that none of it really mattered? We often move without intention, reacting to every demand that comes our way, only to discover that we've lost sight of our own goals, our own desires. Stillness gives you the opportunity to pause and reflect. It allows you to take a step back and see the bigger picture. In moments of quiet, you can reconnect with your purpose, reestablish your priorities, and realign your actions with your core values. It's in the stillness that we find our true direction. It's when we stop to breathe that we gain the wisdom to move forward. In a world that celebrates the loud, the fast, and the busy, stillness is revolutionary. It's a radical act of self-care and self-respect. When you choose stillness, you are choosing to honor yourself, to protect your energy, and to create the space for true growth. The world will keep spinning, the demands will keep coming, and the noise will continue to rise. But in stillness, you find your power, you find your center. You choose to stand strong, grounded in who you are, undistracted by the clamor of external forces. And in doing so, you become unshakable. Stillness also invites us to heal. In the rush of daily life, we often suppress our emotions, push down our pain, and ignore the things that hurt. We tell ourselves that we don't have time to deal with these feelings, that we have to keep moving, keep working, keep striving. But the truth is that when we don't make time to process our emotions, they build up and they show up in unhealthy ways. Stillness gives us the space to feel, to grieve, to release what we've been holding on to. It is in those quiet moments that we allow ourselves to heal. We are given the opportunity to face the wounds we've been avoiding, to sit with our discomfort, and to let go of the baggage that has been weighing us down. Healing happens in the stillness because it's in those moments that we stop running from ourselves. In the stillness, we also find our strength. It's easy to mistake movement for power, to think that action is the only way to make an impact. But the most powerful changes often happen in the quietest moments. Think about it. The most profound decisions you've ever made, the ones that have truly shaped your life, likely came from a place of reflection, a moment when you were still enough to hear your inner voice. This is where real transformation happens, not in the noise and the chaos, but in the moments when you allow yourself to be still, to listen, and to act from a place of deep alignment with your own truth. It's in the stillness that you tap into your inner power, The beauty of stillness is that it doesn't require you to do anything. You don't need to take action, make noise, or try to prove something to anyone. It's the opposite of what society teaches us, yet it's one of the most empowering things you can do. The next time you feel overwhelmed by the noise, by the pressure to keep doing more, remember that there is power in standing still. There is strength in taking a step back, in letting go of the need to constantly move. In that stillness, you'll find not only your peace but your purpose as well. And when you do, the world will begin to notice. When you focus on yourself, you no longer have to chase after success. It begins to chase after you. The idea of chasing success, of running after every opportunity, every perfect moment, every achievement, is ingrained in us from a young age. We are told to hustle, to constantly strive for more, to never stop moving until we've reached the top. But what if that chase is the very thing keeping us from achieving our dreams? When you stop running after success and start focusing on the person you are becoming, success begins to gravitate toward you naturally. This shift in perspective is transformative. Success is no longer a destination. It becomes a byproduct of living in alignment with who you are at your core. The pressure to constantly pursue success can create a sense of anxiety and insecurity. When you focus all your energy on external markers of achievement, money, titles, accolades, you create a fragile foundation for your happiness. Success, when sought in this way, is always fleeting. It's never enough. You always find yourself pushing for the next thing, the next milestone, the next approval. But when you focus on nurturing yourself, on building self-worth and inner strength, something incredible happens. You stop defining your value by what you have or what you do. You start to define it by who you are. And that's when real success follows, not as a chase, but as a result of your authentic growth. When you focus on yourself, you are no longer running in circles trying to prove something to others. The moment you stop looking outward for validation, your energy shifts inward. You start living for your own fulfillment, not for the approval of others. This does not mean you stop caring about the world around you or the people in your life. On the contrary, when you focus on yourself, you become a better version of who you are for others. You show up with more presence, more authenticity, and more empathy. You are no longer distracted by the opinions or expectations of others. Instead, you begin to operate from a place of inner peace and clarity. This clarity allows you to make better decisions, to prioritize what truly matters, and to move forward with purpose. The beauty of focusing on yourself is that it gives you permission to rest. We are taught to always be doing, always be striving, and always be achieving. But true success doesn't come from burnout. When you give yourself the space to rest, to rejuvenate, and to recharge, you are better able to show up in all aspects of your life. Rest is not a sign of weakness. It is a strategic act of strength. When you are well, rested and centered, you can give your best to your work, your relationships, and your passions. Focusing on yourself means understanding that you don't need to exhaust yourself to prove your worth. Rest is essential to your success, and when you allow yourself to take breaks, you come back stronger, more focused, and more aligned with your purpose. Focus on yourself and you unlock the power of self-discipline. It is easy to get distracted by the noise around you, to be pulled in 1,000 directions by external demands, and to feel like you're never quite doing enough. But when you focus inwardly, you cultivate the discipline to stay on track, to stay aligned with your true values, and to pursue your goals with intention. Self-discipline is not about forcing yourself to work harder or pushing through exhaustion. It's about setting boundaries, creating healthy habits, and having the mental clarity to choose actions that align with your deepest desires. By focusing on yourself, you build the inner strength necessary to commit to the actions that will move you closer to the life you want to create. In focusing on yourself, you also give yourself permission to make mistakes and learn from them. There is no failure when you are committed to personal growth. Mistakes are simply opportunities for learning, for expanding your understanding, and for becoming more resilient. When you focus on who you are becoming, rather than the perfect image you feel you need to portray, you let go of the fear of failure. You understand that mistakes are part of the process. The journey becomes more important than the outcome, and that shift in mindset is incredibly freeing. By embracing imperfection and learning from each misstep, you build the confidence to keep moving forward, knowing that each failure is just a stepping stone toward greater growth. When you focus on yourself, you also start to prioritize your happiness and well-being. Too often, we put the needs of others before our own, thinking that selflessness is the key to a meaningful life. But the truth is that we cannot give from an empty cup. If we are not taking care of ourselves, if we are not prioritizing our own happiness, we will eventually burn out. ***, focusing on yourself means choosing to love and care for yourself first, so that you have the energy and the strength to give to others. ***, it's not selfish. It's necessary. You can only offer your best to the world when you've first given yourself the time, space, and care you deserve. Ultimately, focusing on yourself means stepping into your own power. ***, it's about understanding that you are the architect of your own life. ***, no one else can define your success, your happiness, or your worth. When you focus on yourself, you take control of the narrative. You stop waiting for permission from others to go after what you want. Instead, you own your path, you make decisions that align with your values, and you pursue your goals with unwavering confidence. The more you focus on nurturing yourself, the more you begin to see the immense power within you. Success follows naturally, not because you chased it, but because you were focused on becoming the person who is capable of achieving it. When you stop looking outward for approval and validation, something powerful begins to happen. You start to realize how much of your energy was being spent on external factors that don't truly reflect your worth. Every time you look for validation from others, you are, in essence, handing over control of how you feel about yourself to someone else. This is one of the most disempowering actions we can take. Validation becomes a currency, and every time we seek it from others, we deplete our own sense of self-worth. But when you choose to stop seeking approval, you reclaim that power. You no longer have to wait for someone else to tell you that you are worthy or good enough. You take that power back into your own hands and recognize that you are already enough, with or without someone else's recognition. The quest for approval from others is endless. No matter how much you achieve, how many likes or comments you get, the approval you receive from others is always temporary. It doesn't last. In fact, it often creates a cycle of dependence, where the more you receive, the more you crave. You're constantly chasing after that next hit of validation, trying to fill an inner void that can never be satisfied by external sources. The truth is, no amount of external approval can ever truly validate who you are. ***, yourself. Worth must come from within. ***, when you stop seeking validation from others, you are no longer at the mercy of their opinions or expectations. You create a solid foundation within yourself that is unshakable, grounded in the truth of who you are and what you stand for. Think about the times you've sought approval or validation from someone, whether it was a friend, family member, or even a stranger on social media, and how it made you feel. Perhaps you were temporarily satisfied, feeling seen or valued for a moment. But what happens when that approval fades, or when it doesn't come at all? The truth is, waiting for external validation to define your worth is an unstable and unreliable way of living. ***, when you focus on yourself, you shift from seeking external approval to self-acceptance. ***, you start to realize that your value isn't dependent on what others think or say about you. Your worth is inherent. It's already there, and no one else has the power to add to or take away from it. The constant need for approval from others also perpetuates a cycle of self-doubt. Every time you wait for someone else to tell you that you're doing a good job, that you're on the right path, or that you are worthy. You are unconsciously allowing them to be the judge of your progress. This breeds uncertainty, and you start to second guess your choices, your actions, and even your very identity. You look outward instead of inward, and in doing so, you diminish your ability to trust yourself. When you stop seeking validation, you break this cycle. You start listening to your own intuition, your own inner voice, and you trust your judgment. ***, you take ownership of your journey and stop allowing the opinions of others to dictate your path. ***, this doesn't mean you stop caring about others or that you cut yourself off from the world. It simply means that you stop allowing other people's opinions to hold the same weight. It means that you stop being dependent on their validation to feel good about yourself. You can still seek feedback, still value connection, still learn from others, but the key is that your sense of self-worth does not hinge on it. You become free to be yourself, to make decisions from a place of authenticity, and to live your life in alignment with your true desires. When you stop seeking validation, you stop living for someone else's approval and start living for yourself. One of the most profound changes that occur when you stop seeking validation is that you begin to cultivate a deeper relationship with yourself. ***, you start to trust yourself more, and you begin to make choices that are aligned with your true self, not with what others think you should do. This self-trust is empowering because it allows you to navigate life with confidence and clarity. When you rely on others for validation, you're never fully in control. You are always waiting for permission, always hoping for a stamp of approval. But when you stop looking outward for validation, you learn how to stand firmly in your own truth, and that truth becomes your guiding compass. Self-validation is a practice, not a one-time shift. It requires you to consistently remind yourself of your worth, your value, and your unique gifts. It means that you look in the mirror and say, "I am enough," not because someone else tells you that, but because you know it to be true. It's a radical act of self-love and self-acceptance. When you validate yourself, you stop relying on others to tell you that you matter, and you start believing it from within. This internal validation creates a powerful foundation that cannot be shaken by the fleeting opinions or approval of others. The more you practice this, the stronger your sense of self becomes. The freedom that comes from no longer seeking external validation is unparalleled. You stop allowing other people's opinions to define you. You stop letting their judgments dictate your worth. You become free to live your life authentically, to chase your dreams unapologetically, and to take risks without the fear of failure or judgment. When you are no longer concerned with seeking approval, you operate from a place of strength and confidence. You are no longer chasing after something outside of yourself. Instead, you are living from a place of inner alignment, fully trusting that you are enough, just as you are. When you stop seeking validation from others, you reclaim your power. You no longer need the approval of others to define your worth because you know, without a doubt, that you are enough just as you are. This freedom allows you to live authentically, pursue your goals without fear, and trust yourself fully. You step into your true potential, not constrained by the opinions of others, but liberated by the deep understanding that your worth is intrinsic. In this space, success becomes a natural outcome, not a chase. So stop seeking, stop waiting, and start living for yourself. Your journey is yours to define. You are the only approval you need.